What's up, everyone? David DeCelle here, your host of the Business with the Boys podcast. And we have a very different episode for you all today. And this is now become a friend of ours, Dale Downs. He was introduced to us by Aaron Newell, and he dialed in from Nebraska, where a lot of our guests have been. And the reason why I say that this is a different episode is because Dale has been very successful throughout his career, but at this point in his life, he's very much focused on his freedom and his purpose and not money. And a lot of the guests that we've had on, myself and Landon included, were motivated by success, motivated by money, also motivated by freedom and purpose. But Dale shares a different perspective on those. He was born and raised on a multi-generational ranch in Nebraska. And he's worn many hats from an animal nutritionist and rodeo champion to software executive and now the founder of a construction company. He has a deep appreciation for hard work, faith, and personal freedom, as I mentioned. And he also recently published a book that just arrived on my doorstep that is aimed at helping others navigate life with intention. So, with that said, I believe you will really enjoy this episode. And with that said, let's dive right in.
Whoa. Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and run it all back.
Well, Dale, first of all, welcome to the show. Second of all, I know you and I did the intro call together, and we were introduced by our good friend and common connection, Aaron Newell. So thank you to Aaron. But I didn't realize, and as you know, right before we started recording, that you and Landon, or at least the families, go way back. The Midwest is a small world, Nebraska specifically.
Western Nebraska gets even smaller.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
wild.
it
So,
was it was strange because I looked at Landon's last name and it finally hit me from that I was at his grandparents a lot when I was about 7 years old. So that's Nebraska, and we both end up east, which we probably both didn't plan on, but it's pretty cool.
small world. And so why help sort of bridge the gap? What were you doing hanging out with his grandparents? What was the common connection there? Was it family stuff? Was it work stuff? Help me understand
But
that.
my grandma's dear friend Marty Swanson, I think Dale was your connection, right?
That's
Marty in
absolutely
Sweden.
absolutely correct. And Swansons were were very close friends to my parents, and actually Swede Swanson, Marty's Karen's good friend. She was married to Swede, who was an amazing guy, pro bulldogger. In fact, in college, I called Swede and I said I need another event. I was riding broncs, bareback horses, and I wanted to chase the all around. And so he taught me to bulldog in a month and a half. Uh, and he must have been really good at it because I made the college finals in bulldogging the next year. So I really appreciate those people.
I
So,
remember he was one of the best. I mean, he was hazing up until the end. I mean, long
Yeah.
time I remember, right? I mean, couldn't maybe bulldog anymore, but he'd still ride and haze every rodeo we'd go to. You'd see Swede down there.
Yeah. And Landon, I tell you what, it was a testament to that man because he had leukemia. There are certain people through the course of your life that really have an influence on you. He had leukemia, and I went and saw him at a rodeo, to your point, when he had leukemia, and he's hazing there. And
Yep.
he said, well, my other choice was to sit home and die. I'd rather do this. pretty amazing.
That's
And that
funny.
about sums sweet up in one sentence.
Yep.
So I'd like to say, you know, on
You
behalf
know
of the
what hazing
listener.
is?
Well, let me finish, Landon. I was gonna blame it on the listeners and say, for those who don't know, but really my Boston ass and now Floridian, you mentioned bulldogging, you mentioned hazing, and I'm thinking of a dog and I'm thinking of a fraternity, and I don't think that those are the proper terms. So for our listeners slash my bougie ass, share with me what the heck that is.
I would like to know the learning process behind it. As somebody who dabbled a little bit in riding bulls, but never got into the bulldogging side of things. So yeah, how does one learn to jump off a horse? Um, right immediately onto the neck of a steer and then wrestle it to the ground.
That's what it
And
is.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
What?
yeah,
David, these steers are three times your body weight, at least.
at least. And you got to
So
chase them down on a horse.
yeah,
So you dismount and mount like midair, Superman style, run out.
yeah.
Come in, jump off, grab it from the back, right underneath the horns, twist his neck hard enough that it falls over to the side, and that's when you're done. But you
So
got to
you're
catch it first.
wrestling bulls,
Well, they're steers, but
steers.
yeah,
They've got their nuts cut out. So that
yeah.
they have less testosterone.
Well,
So
on that note, I will say, and I get reminded of this every so often. My wife grew up in Central Florida, and her family raises cattle, and so she grew up turning bull into steer. And every now and again, I get a reminder that she has that skill set.
yeah, probably if she's good at castration, be a little cautious, I would say.
And what's hazing?
Hazing is so the where you run out towards the steer is called the box. So you've got a left box, a right box, and a chute in the middle where the steer comes out. The right box, the hazer backs into the corner of that. The bulldogger backs into the left corner of the left box, and the hazer keeps that steer close enough to the horse. In other words, kind of herds the
Mhm.
steer towards the bulldogger because otherwise you end up falling on your head. You have to be close enough.
So a hazer is kind of like a fluffer.
Yeah,
It's a very integral part, I
it's
will
it's
say.
it's one of the most important parts of the
You could be
event.
a hell of a bulldogger, but if you got a bad hazer, it's game over.
So imagine you're getting off a horse at whatever, 20 some miles an hour, and you go to reach for that steer and the hazer's not there. That steer, it'll just,
Bolt,
and then you're so far down, you either
eat
try to,
shit.
yeah, pull yourself up or yeah, eat shit in the arena. It's
Man.
interesting, but
Next time you're out, David, I'll take you out and we'll find somebody to let you do some bulldogging. I'll do some hazing for you.
So it's funny, I was in a study group and my friend Kurt Mueller lives in South Carolina, and we were all flying to South Carolina for this study group meeting, and he had shared, he's like, "Hey, we're gonna go catfishing." And I was like, "What's catfishing?" So I looked up some videos, and I'm like, "I'm not fucking doing that." Like, so
Was
me,
it noodling when you with the arm, the bare hand in it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
catfish noodling. And so then they all sort of ganged up on me, and there was an inside joke, and we got ready to go catfish noodling, everything. Like, I'm getting anxious because I'm like, well, I don't want to, be a bitch and bow out. And we're driving there, everything. And then I forget what we ended up doing instead, but we did something else, and they were just messing with me the whole time because they knew I was sweating bullets.
They knew you well then.
yeah. I agree with you, David. I mean, there are certain things I just won't do. I wouldn't do that. Reach up in a muddy bank and put my arm in a catfish mouth. No,
Oh.
But
no.
jumping off a horse at 20 mile an hour and grabbing a steer and wrestling him to the ground is all right.
Well, you can see what's happening, so I get it. The other one,
Yeah,
you're
That's
reaching
right.
my thing.
around.
Yeah, I don't like the unknown.
The
That's funny.
bulldogging was relaxing compared to getting on a bareback horse. It was like I'd love to see the timed event end of the.
Yeah.
I was like, no big deal. So,
Well, Dale, walk us through your backstory. So, what I could deduce from yours and Landon's conversation before we started recording, you grew up in the middle of nowhere, just like Landon did. Walk us through what life was like, and bring us through the timeline.
well, I know this cast is somewhat centered around entrepreneurs. So my dad he's farmer and rancher, but he started from pretty much nothing after the military in '65. And my dad was noteworthy for whatever time of the year there wasn't something to do, he would start a business. So out there, you can relate to Landon. So what we did was row crop. We ran about 700 cows through the '70s, early '80s.
Which that's a lot.
Yeah, and I don't know what we farmed, probably I'm guessing 2,500 acres, something like that. And then you had a time period where you put up hay. So he decided to make good money, frankly, put up square bales, which David are weigh 70, 80 pounds, and we did it all by hand in a horse trailer.
Sorry
And
to
shit,
interject, but
yeah.
I love how quickly you've realized what you need to explain to me. Uh,
What comes second nature to some of us needs to be watered down a little bit for my buddy
Well,
Double D here.
I can't hardly do this without incorporating some Dougisms. My dad's name's Doug. And so the Dougism, instead of getting real equipment, he hooked up a 16-foot stock trailer and drove. And we'd have to run one,
To
my
keep
brother,
up.
yeah, my brother would be in there stacking square bales, and I'd be grabbing them off the field and throwing them in the trailer. And he'd just put it in granny and drive. And that's bottom line again. And then we custom wheat harvested, which was miserable work. We worked on a combine 4 days a week, used it 3, and did it again because we ran all worn out equipment. And if you saw my brother's place, there's a reason he has good equipment. He's just got a little acreage, but he's like, I'm not running junk anymore. And but anyway, I learned a lot. I'm not going to say I appreciated my childhood. My brother would agree. But what it did was what it was supposed to do. It implemented
God.
the value of hard work, and he built from nothing to a really good operation. And then the '80s hit. He hit 23% interest. The one of the 2 times in history the ag land tanked in value. If a guy, by the way, retrospect, if a guy had cash sitting around, should have bought all the ag land they could in the '80s. But that time period, that's why I'm not back in North Platte, Landon. I mean, I had enough. I had
Yep.
enough 12-hour days, and we had to quit baseball, when you had to start really chasing games, right? Like Legion,
Yep.
because we had
Wasn't
work,
time for that as work for yep.
right?
Same.
So I guess the message I'm trying to send is it taught me a ton, and it taught me what I don't want to do. It taught me that anything's possible because my dad recovered in the '80s. People that inherited land did not almost didn't make it through. They took away ag lending, so they couldn't plant. Basically, they're saying because you don't make money, you can't have a loan, you can't plant a crop to make money. So, from you guys' standpoint, wow, how do you figure that puzzle out? And, it's like, well, you figure it out. And he salvaged most of the land. It was the time period was, I learned a lot. I mean, driving equipment to town that you run for since you were 6 years old to sell, you go, huh, this isn't great. I'm surprised my dad's surviving this. And that's what formed my brother and me.
So if you, and I think all those lessons there are extremely valuable, but the one that I want to hit on is you said, which I was similar to, not nearly as hard of work as I'm sure you dealt with, but my first job was bussing tables, and I learned what I did not want to do and work in
Yeah.
the restaurant space. So you had made mention that you learned what you didn't want to do long term. So walk us through, like, what did you end up doing over your career?
So guys, when I left the farm and ranch, I went to UNL because they gave me more money and I didn't have any money. I got a Regent, I got a Regent scholarship. I had a scholarship to Anchorage, or it wasn't Anchorage. It was I'm missing the name of it. Anyway, clear into Alaska, and I was going to go into forestry, and get a master's in that because I like outdoors. And they gave me a scholarship. Well, I ended up getting a Regents to UNL, and I go, well, all right,
That's
can't.
tough to turn down.
Yeah, and honestly, I took off, and I really didn't know what I was going to do. I'm not sure. I'm probably still in that position, but I went to UNL and I took on a program called Ag Honors, which fits me perfectly because you can pick your own curriculum. And so I had a few requirements, but basically you can just create your own educational path, which frankly I didn't learn a lot. I mean, I made at least 50% of my classes. Still managed to almost get a 4.0, but I'm blessed. And then I got done with the bachelor's. I'm like, I really don't know what to do. So they
Might as well
pursued,
keep going.
yeah, they came to me and said, well, you can get a stipend to get a master's. And I go, well, I can kill a few years and do that. I stayed a year. I did 5 years on my bachelor's so I could rodeo another year, which I'm glad I did because that's the year I made the college national final.
Finals.
It's just weird how you just make a decision off the cuff and it completely changes your outcome. And David, Aaron, I met him when we started our most successful band in college. He mixed sound for us.
Aaron did not share that with
He's
me.
never, I never knew he was a soundboard guy.
Well, he wasn't, but Aaron can figure out anything.
This is true. I love the guy.
He just goes, I think I can do it. And he roomed with our drummer. And Clint goes, I think Aaron can do it. So he did it for a few years, and we had a great time. But those things, had I not extended my bachelor's degree, probably wouldn't have happened if I just left. I had no idea why I was doing it. I mean, that's a lesson anybody can learn. If you're kind of feeling something as a direction and you don't know why, just do
Go with it.
it. And it may go good, it may not,
But
but
you'll learn something either way.
exactly. So anyway, yeah, so I got my master's in livestock nutrition, and then I like I told you earlier, I did work in the Dakotas on ranches and feed yards I consulted with, etc. From there, the company, and I kind of did that pretty much in Norfolk, Landon, when I lived up there. The feed company was interesting because through the course of that time, I got the opportunity I ran the company, but I also continued in formulation and creation of supplements and livestock feeds.
You
And
were doing the actual science and the running of the business then.
yeah, so when we get to talking about human nutrition and short. And by the way, David, you've got a publication coming. It should be there Friday.
Ah, thank you. I'll let you know once it
And
arrives.
I'll get one to Landon because I ordered extras and he lives here. So, but down there was really interesting because I ended up working with what I call him a mad scientist to his face. He's an amazing brain, and together we created uh, five at least, more than that, probably 8 lines of livestock supplements and branded them and worked with marketing to get them marketed. And through the course of that, we ended up with being inventors on a patented horse supplement that um, straightens out horses that are going to die of digestive problems. And it does it in about 3 weeks.
Wow.
It was probably the neatest science project I've worked on. So, and then the software company, again, it most of the consulting nutritionists in the nation use it to formulate livestock diets, which help people efficiently get food to your table, David. It had 9 scientific models in it that model biology in order to uh, create diets that make animals gain weight more efficiently. That was 10 years, and here I am. We sold it.
So it seems like, if I'm interpreting this correctly, it's interesting how each of these businesses that you've been involved in were all related. And I would deduce from that, and certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but as you were, working with one company before starting and being a part of another company, you noticed a need or a challenge or something that wasn't there in existence. And then similar to your father, Doug, who you mentioned every season, when things would slow down or not be relevant, he'd start a new business. You kind of that's a lesson in and of itself because you notice something and boom, there's a business for it. Am I deducing that correctly?
Yes. Yep. And yeah, you put it together better than I did, David. But that did come from my dad. He looking at opportunities, and that's a huge part of entrepreneurs, that they look at something and go, well, there's a need there. Do I have the resources, ability to fulfill that?
Hence the boat and lake service industry that I'm starting right now. I hope
Yeah.
that's the case, but there's a lot of pain points around that. So we basically were like, well, let's stop bitching about it and be the ones that disrupt the market and change it. So
There you
Yeah.
go.
that's exactly
Guys,
how it goes.
Aaron and I were talking about, I'm sure you will know right away who it is, but he was talking about Brent, that you guys did a podcast with,
Yep.
his story. And
Yep.
just real quick, but I have a Brent friend in Marco Island, and I might move there,
Oh,
Dave.
well, if
I
you
don't
do, you
know.
let me know because I'm not too far from there, Dale.
I didn't think you were. Um, but he was an investment guy up on the East Coast. originally from Maine, I believe. But he was making great money, etc. He just finally he got tired of it, packed up, went to Marco and started Captain Party Hard. They didn't have any party tours. They were all fishing, stuff like that. So he takes people from Marco Island on a boat trip down the waterways where all those nice houses are and goes to Keewaydin Island. And he's loving life, man. It's a cool story.
That's
So
awesome.
so let's go down that path. So when we had first spoke, Dale, I was probably most intrigued in your perspective around prioritizing things like freedom and happiness and purpose. And you just kind of alluded to that with Brent, in finance, and then was like, you know what, I'm just going to go to Florida and drive a boat and get paid to do that. Um, Walk me through just like your thoughts on that, because a lot of the folks that we work with, I'd argue Landon and I as well fall into this category where we're always, and I don't mean this word in a negative way, but like always scheming, always trying to figure out how do we continue to grow? How do we continue to push forward? How do we continue to solve problems? And it seems like you've hit an inflection point in your life to where your priorities are different now. Can you unpack that for us?
Yes. So for me, I would define that as evolution and how I look at the world and how I approach things. Um, if I ratcheted back to, when I started my journey, or if you call it that, it was kind of the same intentions. Like my definition of success was very different than it is now. And, I could sum it up by I'd rather die broke than not have the experiences I've had. All the aforementioned stuff, rodeo, bands, even authoring this short book, I don't, well, the first two I didn't make any money at. I mean, I paid for some food, but you know what? That's been a significant part of my life to the extent the people I was around and played in bands with and rodeoed with. That's a huge part of my life. And were I chasing money, I never would have done that. We have to have, in my judgment, this is how I define it. We have to have some money, unfortunately, to have freedom. Entrepreneurial activities support freedom in a way, unless the ultimate goal is to continue to, beat everybody financially. If that's the goal, the freedom goes away.
And I'd argue it's just an empty way to live.
Yes. And
I've
so
met a lot of those, and it's great. You can have all the success in the world, and then you peel back the onion, and they're fucking miserable inside.
exactly. And I'll give you an example. Another learning moment when my brother quit that firm. He goes, I decided to quit on the way back from Texas. He was with the senior partner, the owner of Bartlett Vet. And he said, I looked over at him and he was freaking miserable. And
That was
he,
my life. Fast forward just 30
yeah,
years, right?
yes, exactly. He saw himself in the future. And this guy he goes, he talked to me about this. He goes, this guy he didn't know where to even spend his money. He put $150,000 statue in front of his house. I mean, I think I'm getting my point across, but so I think where you're headed, David, is is what am I doing now? Well, we sold the company, and guess what? Capital investment firms don't want management. So I sold myself out of a job, is what it comes down
Owners don't make good employees.
to. But yeah, so Landon, I talked to David a little bit about this on the intake, but yeah, I had this trailer sitting out there when I got divorced. I had made a mobile shop, and I built a house in 2000. Aaron helped me on that too. I told David that he helped me quite a bit. But so I bought all these tools. Like if I'm making sweat equity, I better have some tools. And I still had them. And so I started Majestic Builders. So I'm doing remodels. And my wife and I got a B&B. We bought a condo. We're mainly just to build equity, but get enough B&B income to kind of support it. Um, and then I got time to finish my short read on nutrition. I wrote a children's book recently that I'm in the process of illustrating.
Well, I have a baby coming in September, so you have until September to finish it and send me a link to buy a copy so I can be your first purchase.
Sure.
Um, so what let me try to tee this question up appropriately. So one of the things that Landon and I help business owners with is increasing value before an ultimate exit. And one of the things that we touch on is a lot of times that business is the business owner's identity. And they've been entrepreneurial a lot of times since they were children. And then it comes to the point where they sell their business and they don't know what the hell to do. And so we work with them on helping kind of craft like what does life look like? Like what is their third act look like? There's a book that just popped into my mind that I've read that has a provocative, attention grabbing title, but it's incredibly helpful. It's called How to Retire and Not Die. Um, so I guess my question is, when you sold your business, what like did you have this plan? Did you stumble across it for Majestic Builders? Because my understanding is that it's not this massive contracting company, but you're doing jobs as you see fit while maintaining balance and assuming that I have that correct, like I guess help me understand that transition and what that was like, because I think that's something that a lot of folks struggle with is they go crazy or they become depressed because they don't have that next thing figured out and they can't just chill.
Right. Yeah. Probably all of us included, we don't have quit bred into us. So what you're asking, and again, it ties into why I wanted to do this. How long, I don't know, but the thing, I guess the thing I would say is what I did was, worked on that book and just thought a lot and go, okay, what's a day look like that I enjoy? And again, it comes back to freedom. And I think, like using my brother as an example, I haven't figured out, and he'll understand this. I've maybe even told him, but I'm like, why do you want to go run another company? He's doing it. He's running a company based out of California. So he goes to California. His drive is a little different than mine. I don't want to have to get on an airplane and go to California for a week. If I want to, great. So I think the first step in the decision regarding your question is what's my day look like where I come home and I've got a smile on my face and I'm in a good mood. I'm not wrung out. I get tired, I put in a lot of hours, but that's not what causes degradation in the quality of your life. It's not how many hours. I put in, like the software company, I loved it. I'd put in tons of hours, but it didn't feel like it.
Hmm.
You could actually charge your batteries if you're passionate about it, right?
Yes. And I think the grind, this is why I did not want to be an executive, because my next step, David, wasn't evident. But I said, you know what? And I'm still paying my ex. I've got a few more years. It'll be year 11. I leak cash every month. But I said, so do I want to leak cash? That is what it is. The courts in Nebraska are not going to help me. They're going to say, why aren't you being an executive? Literally. If
Yep.
you've proven it, you don't get differences in support to an ex. So when I realized that, okay, so if I'm going to leak cash, do I want to leak cash still and be an executive where I've got a hammer on me every day, or have partners and boards, or do I want to leak cash and be on my own schedule? And I made that decision. Bottom line, what's better? Maybe wrong. Again, I may die broke. I don't care.
Well, it's interesting because I don't think it's right. I don't think it's wrong. Um, I think that what people need to do is look hard at themselves in the mirror and answer the question, am I actually happy in doing what I'm doing? Like for me, as an example, you know, my calendar is pretty full all the time, but if I have a week of vacation, like I get antsy by the fourth day where I'm like, I want to go back and work. Like I'm good for like a Friday to Monday trip, and then like anything longer than that's a
Same.
little too much. Um, and I also want to generate a lot of revenue and do a lot of really cool things and donate a lot of money. But I can look at myself in the mirror and say, at least at this stage in life, that genuinely makes me happy. And I'm sure, Dale, you could do the same thing for exactly what you're doing. And same with Landon. It's where people fall into the trap is when they're flying back from, Texas or wherever you said, and they're just miserable, like your brother's boss or partner was, in that moment. And they're not honest with themselves. They're just chasing that next buck, but not it doesn't fill their cup as they're going through it. So I don't think it's right or wrong. I think you just need to have the wherewithal and the awareness to have an honest conversation with yourself and ask if you're actually happy doing what you're doing.
Yes, and it's certainly based on the person. If a person, if their self-actualization is making more money, I'm not picking on them. I'm just saying what you said, that I think the message is, well, you just said it. I mean, you don't you don't have to sit there and measure what's based on.
Somebody's always got a bigger one.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And the life, I love competition, but money doesn't always have money, and stuff frankly is meaningless. I do know that. So uh you know just getting that, chasing that carrot, it's like, I think everybody, even if you are driven, if your self-actualization is money, you still need to back up and go, okay, what am I missing in life chasing money?
I would say find your passion and a way for your passion to make you money, and you'll never be happier.
Right.
Like
It's
that's where
interesting.
I'm at. It's like I love my clients. I don't work with anybody that I don't want to now. Like, right. It's like I don't care if you got $1 billion. But if you're an
Yeah.
asshole, I don't need you. I don't care.
I don't
You
blame you.
know, I've got people on the other end of the spectrum are like, oh, what's your client minimums? I'm like, 3 drink rule, right? If I'll sit and have 3 drinks with you, then I like you. I don't care if you get 20,000 or 200 million, right? There's no minimum. I just gotta like you. Same thing on the boat business and lake service company we're doing. Like, my wife is like, do we really need a fourth company? Like, for what? And I'm like, what else am I going to do? I'd be bored, right? So, and I love the
Exactly.
people I'm doing it with, and there's impact there. So, yeah, and it ain't about the dollars. It's probably a lot more risk than it is, potential upside. I don't know. So, but it's all about the ride for me.
Well, you'll have some fun
Yeah.
doing that. And I told David I go into AutoZone. In fact, I was in there this morning to get away from myself, which people they found weird when I applied. They said, "Why are you wanting to work here?" And I go, "Because I need to get away from myself." And it's a hell of a lot of fun. You being in there a half day or a day a week, just helping people, putting in a damn battery. They're like the most excited you ever see people. But um, anyway, yeah, to your point, I really think that'll be a fun venture. I assume David wants to go back into food service.
Well,
Uh,
it's so
he's,
on that note, it's
He
funny.
actually likes to cook. He could do it
Oh,
on that
so do
side.
I.
yeah.
He loves to cook, and he's
My
damn
my
good at
wife
it.
and I are always neck and neck on who cooks better, and it's a good competition to have because we just eat great food. But you made me think when you had shared, Dale, if you die broke, it is what it is. Like that's how focused you are on being happy. And I think back, I was in a different career. I was a financial advisor for 7 years. The last 8 years, I've been in consulting, and at that point in my life, I had started the consulting business. I had $0 in revenue. I had racked up over $40,000 in credit card debt. Never mind, student loans and all that type of stuff. And family and friends and the people around me were like, "Well, why don't you just get a job so you can like get on your feet, right? And get things in order." And I remember saying to them, like, I'd rather live on the street than get a job because a job I would be absolutely miserable. But running a business and building and growing gives me a lot of energy. So I didn't think of it that way because you had made that comment on our intro call, and I didn't make that connection. But as we talk today, I'm like, okay, I think I'm in alignment with where I derive my happiness from. And it goes back to that example where it would have been easy to just get a job and get out of that crappy situation. But I also wouldn't have experienced and accomplished and done the things that, I'm doing today if I had, taken that easy way out, so to speak. So I can 100% relate where I'd rather live on the street than be, unhappy.
Well, and there's again, it depends on people, but in mine, your case, all of our case, I think buildings. Well, my company's tagline is we build like we own it, and
That's a great tagline.
I
It
think
is.
I think that piece, if you build something small that is out of your head with your hands, whatever it might be, for a lot of people like us, it's more satisfying than going, oh, I made this much net revenue. And from there, as you stated, Landon, I think if you can get both and you can make enough net revenue to survive, and help people, as you stated, David, and you're building something you own, that is the ultimate. It's kind of a summary of what you said, Landon. That's the ultimate for me. Some people more net revenue. That's all I care about. And that's fine.
I do have so one of the questions that we ask all of our guests before we wrap up, it's about a book that's had an impact on them. And I haven't come across this book, so I'm curious to know why you chose it and the impact that it's had on you. But you had made mention of a book called Double Double. Uh, Talk to me about that.
So, and I'll just be upfront, David. I write more than I read.
And by right, and I'm obviously joking because I know there's another book, but by right you mean a children's book. So that's a lot shorter than like a long ass
Yeah,
novel.
I've always struggled with reading because my mind goes elsewhere, and I'll read through 10 pages and not know what I read. And that's fortunately I could skim books through all of my school, which I hated every year of through my master's degree. Um, uh,
Same. You sound a lot like me.
oh my gosh.
Landon, you didn't make it to masters.
Oh no, yeah, I didn't have the natural ability. Trust me. Took me 7 years to get an undergrad in communications. I hated school. Like I love the social aspect of it, but I struggled like yeah,
But Landon, I hear you. I mean, I'd
real
get
world application is best for me.
going back to grad school. I'd be out there rodeoing out where we grew up, and I'd be like, I don't want to go back to grad school. Ugh. It was just an awful feeling. I hated it. But anyway, the it it added value to my life. But yeah, as far as double double, it was one I was interested in because it was really a strange, I guess, story of an entrepreneur. He's the guy that started 1-800 Got Junk.
Mm.
Which is
And
everywhere.
yeah, and it was double double, which I wasn't. I mean, I had to run companies, so I was interested in creating more revenue for the partners, you know. But the biggest thing that's interesting about it, he puts the concept of visioning into reverse engineering. And I did this for the software company, and I think it worked. So you look out, you do 5 years, you look out 5 years, and you write down as if that your company is that today. Like you write a single page. I wrote a single page that described in 5 years this company. And so and it actually happened. I put in the number of employees. We had 3 when I took it over. I said, we have 10. I defined all their jobs. I went through and said, this is what we do. And we weren't doing that the year I took it over. We weren't doing it at all. And we were doing it when I left. And it's just an interesting, it's like you create and then you take that document and you reverse engineer and you take steps that move
It's
towards
it's basically traction. It's EOS,
similar. Yeah.
right?
I have read part of that. I got bored with that, but double double. And
Or think and grow rich, right? I mean, it's the same concept. Like you just gotta
Manifestation.
manifest it, and yeah,
yeah, and but this guy's great. I mean, I saw him live, and I mean, he talks like us. He's sitting up there in front of the YPO people, uh, which is the Young Presidents Organization. So a lot of big wigs, whatever. I don't care, but he's up there
it's a
just
common theme in Western Nebraska, isn't there, David?
These schmucks.
he's up he's up there after starting 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and he's like, if you do this, fuck that. He's up there in front of these bigwigs in Omaha. I mean, these two guys like Omaha Steaks and
Yep.
Simons and people like that are in that thing. You probably know. My brother's been in it, but anyway. So I just enjoy the guy and the book, and he puts concepts. It's not it's not like traction where you implement this major thing.
Yep.
It's more or less just revisiting that and going, are we
Headed that way.
headed that way? Yeah.
Love it. Well, Dale, this has been a pleasure. Very much a different perspective than what we typically have on the show around grow, 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 and build, build, build. And I think the way I framed it or worded it on our intro call was something to the effect of, this episode is sort of like everyone hit a pause button in your life and reflect and either confirm that you're truly happy, doing the right thing, living towards your purpose. And if you are, great. Keep doing whatever
Enjoy
you're
the
doing.
fruits of your labor, right?
And if you're not, then do something about it. Change something. Prioritize happiness, prioritize freedom. So we appreciate you joining. And if folks want to check out Majestic Builders or connect with you in some way, shape, or form, where's the
Up into
best place for them
AutoZone.
to go?
Uh, well, I do have a website for Majestic Builders, but probably I'll be launching DD Nutrition Truth website, which is a link where you can get my book on Amazon or uh, you know wherever you want to, if you want to look at it. But yeah, ddnutritiontruth.com. Otherwise, I'm on Facebook as well under my
Awesome.
nutrition company. So
Very nice. Well, Dale, we appreciate your time. Shout out again to the common thread between all three of us, which is Aaron Newell. Thank you for the introduction. I've lost track, but he's had to have introduced us to like 10 of our guests at this point. So he's been a huge advocate, strong friend of ours. So appreciate Aaron as well. But Dale, thanks for joining the show.
I appreciate it, guys.
Whoa. Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. Better me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to